question that I'm frequently asked is, how do you hold your yarn? And I've always hesitated to say much on the subject because it's such a personal thing. So what I thought I would do is just show you how I hold my yarn, and you can use this method or you can just compare it to your own method, and I'll explain some of the reasons I hold it in that particular manner. Let's start out with the right hand. I'm naturally right-handed, and my normal yarn hold is to slide my third finger under the yarn quite close to the work and get hold of it with the fingers on either side. Then I can sort of pull that hand back until I have room to tuck that finger in. It would be useful to have a knitting needle at this point. So now I'm going to get ready to manipulate the yarn and make my new stitch and let it go. Now my aim with this kind of yarn hold is to have the yarn running just around the top of my nail on the index finger, and this one to sort of stabilize it and keep it in position. And this way I can just push, I really can knit. I can just push that yarn out around there, finish my stitch, and then insert my new needle. Another comment that's often made about my knitting is how close to my needle tips I work, but I do believe that you shouldn't have two full needles in any one stitch. A stitch is formed when it reaches the full size of the needle. Therefore, if I stuff two full needles into this stitch has to take yarn from other stitches on either side of it. So my aim with this yarn hold is to be able to push that yarn around the needle tip and not move it very far. So I'm aiming for a short distance of travel, complete the stitch, then slide that right hand needle into the full width of the stitch, and the sort of tension is being maintained through that sort of under and over mechanism. And if I wanted extra twist, I would take another wrap around my little finger. So that's my basic yarn hold, and I'm trying to keep it down, and I'm also trying to keep my finger really close to the work. That way I don't have much to move, and I don't wind up with what I call the television antenna hold, where all I can really do from here is pull, and my finger gets tenser and tenser the further away it gets. If my finger creeps away, I come back in with that third finger down and then slide out. I've got some tension on the yarn that goes over this finger. So that's my right hand yarn hold. My left hand yarn hold, I admit, I still use my right hand to set my left hand up, but I use the same route over the index finger, just above the nail, under the middle finger, round the ring finger, and if necessary, an extra twizzle round the little finger. These days I don't tend to use the twizzle anymore, but when I first started using my left hand, I twizzled. Using the same principles as before, keeping everything close to the work, I can just move that finger a very little bit, and by keeping my yarn low down on the finger, I can push with it, I can lift with it. I've got many angles that I can push to the right, I can pull up, and I can pull to the left, but I'm keeping it snug up to the work. And when I first started working with my left hand, my finger would creep away, and I really don't have very much control when it gets that far away. So as my finger would creep away, I would use my right hand to bring the yarn back to heel, and I'd just snuggle it in again, get it low down on my finger, and off we go. And you can see how efficient that left hand yarn hold is, still trying to stay on the tapers until that new stitch is formed. And there's a lot less movement required using the left hand to perform knit stitches. The yarn is in position straight away. if I'm holding the yarn in my right hand, I've got to push the yarn out to position and back again to hold it. And if I'm holding my stitches way back from the needle tips, this is what I call stitch abuse, I've got to move everything a lot further to get around the needle tip. So working near your needle tips, provided you make the stitch when it gets to the full width of the needle, is quite an efficient way to work. Now for purling. My hand's all set up, and push that yarn around the needle tip, slide the needle to the full width, and purl, and purl, and purl. So trying to keep that yarn running around the position of my nail. Now for the left hand. So I've used my right hand to position the yarn, and I'm going to do my rotation and complete the stitch. This is a conventional rotation purl stitch, and I wouldn't call it a reformed right-hander, but I am a right-hander adapted to left-hand yarn operation. So I just tuck the needle tip in, rotate the yarn around, then put the full width of the needle in there, and that allows me to keep control of my left hand purling. In my double knitting, I actually purl alternatively. I rotate the yarn the opposite way round when purling with both hands for various reasons, and that's an even more efficient action. But this does leave you with stitches mounted in different directions. These stitches are conventionally mounted with their leading leg in front of the needle, and these stitches are unconventionally mounted with their trailing leg in front of the needle. There's so many options in knitting. Try everything and pick the ones that work for you.